Sports are meant to showcase competition, skill, and endurance, but sometimes the game takes a dark turn. In this video, we're diving into 5 of the most disturbing deaths that occurred during sporting events. These are real stories of athletes who stepped onto the field, court, or track and never made it off. Tragedies no one ever expected. It was July 19, 2019, and the spotlight was on the MGM National Harbor in Oxon Hill, Maryland. The crowd buzzed, the lights were blinding, and the atmosphere was electric. Why? Because 28-year-old Russian boxer Maxim Dadashev was about to step into the ring for the biggest fight of his life. This wasn't just any match. It was an IBF light welterweight title eliminator. Translation: winner gets a golden ticket to fight for a world championship. Stakes? High. Maxim, or Mad Max as fans called him, came in with a perfect record: 13 wins, 0 losses, and 11 knockouts. Dude had hands. Fast, technical, and smart in the ring, he was a rising star with a bright future. His opponent? Subriel Matias, a fierce Puerto Rican fighter with an aggressive style and a hit now, ask questions later attitude. The bell rang, and from the jump, Dadashev looked sharp. He was moving well, landing crisp punches, but Matias didn't flinch. He just kept marching forward like a boxing terminator. As the rounds ticked by, something shifted. Dadashev started to fade. The hits piled up, and by rounds 10 and 11, he looked like a fighter running on fumes. In his corner was trainer Buddy McGirt, a veteran of the sport who had seen it all and knew when enough was enough. He watched Max carefully between rounds. "Max, you're getting hit too much," he said. Dadashev shook his head. He wanted to keep fighting, but Buddy wasn't asking anymore. "Please, Max, let me do this." And with that, McGirt made the call. He stopped the fight, saving his fighter from further punishment, but by then, it may have already been too late. Dadashev was behind on the scorecards anyway, but the real concern wasn't points. It was his condition. As he tried to walk back to the locker room, he stumbled. Trainers helped him, but halfway down the corridor, he collapsed. He vomited. He lost consciousness. Everyone went from, "That was a tough match," to, "This is an emergency," in seconds. He was rushed to the University of Maryland's hospital, where doctors found severe brain bleeding. Emergency surgery was performed. Part of his skull had to be removed to relieve the pressure. Doctors placed him in a medically induced coma, hoping for a miracle. But the miracle never came. 4 days later, on July 23rd, Maxim Dadashev passed away. He was just 28. The news hit the boxing world like a knockout punch to the gut. A promising fighter with so much ahead of him, gone. His wife, Elizaveta, back home in Russia with their 2-year-old son, was heartbroken. In a statement, she called Maxim a kind man who fought until the very end. She said she would raise their son to be as strong as his father. Trainer Buddy McGirt was devastated. He had done everything right in training, but still, the unthinkable happened. "It just takes one punch," he said. Even Matias, who won the fight, was shaken. He released a statement saying no one's ever ready for something like this when chasing their dreams. In a rare gesture of respect, he refused to accept his $7,500 prize money. Maxim's death sparked fresh debates about boxing safety, especially around head trauma. Should corners stop fights sooner? Should medical checks be stricter? Everyone had opinions, but what was clear was this: something had to change. Investigations were launched both in Russia and in Maryland. The boxing world, while built on toughness, was forced to face a painful truth. Sometimes, even with all the training, precautions, and heart in the world, the sport can be deadly. Maxim's legacy? It's not just in the fights he won, but in the conversations he sparked. He became a symbol of the risk, the sacrifice, and the reality behind the ropes. And for those who knew and loved him, his spirit still lives on, strong, proud, and undefeated in heart. October 28, 2023. A cold Saturday night in Sheffield, England. Inside the Utilita Arena, over 8,000 fans were ready for an intense Elite Ice Hockey League Challenge Cup match between the Sheffield Steelers and the Nottingham Panthers. On the ice was 29-year-old Adam Johnson, an American forward for the Panthers. Born in Grand Rapids, Minnesota, Adam had chased his hockey dreams all the way to the NHL with the Pittsburgh Penguins. After stints in Sweden and Germany, he'd found a home in the UK, admired for his speed, talent, and humble attitude. Then, the unthinkable happened. Midway through the second period, around the 35-minute mark, Johnson was skating near center ice when a collision occurred. Sheffield's Matt Petgrave lost his balance and fell, his left skate kicking up as he went down. In a tragic twist, the blade struck Johnson directly in the neck. The impact was severe. Johnson tried to skate to the bench but collapsed on the ice. The arena fell silent. Medical personnel rushed out, setting up a barrier around him as they worked desperately to control the bleeding. He was rushed to the hospital, but the injury was fatal. His passing was confirmed hours later. A post-mortem revealed the damage was catastrophic. The game was immediately called off. Fans were sent home in silence. All weekend, EIHL games were canceled. The entire hockey world was stunned. Tributes poured in from NHL stars, teammates, and fans worldwide. Johnson's death shook the sport. He was more than just a player. He was a teammate, a friend, and a future fiancé. Just weeks before, he had bought an engagement ring for his girlfriend, Ryan Wolf. As tributes continued, so did hard questions. Why wasn't neck protection mandatory? Could this have been prevented? The English Ice Hockey Association responded quickly, mandating neck guards for all players starting in 2024. But the EIHL, where Johnson played, stopped short, strongly encouraging guards, but not requiring them. The tragedy sparked conversations globally. NHL players like Anze Kopitar and Tyler Bertuzzi began wearing neck guards. Canada's hockey leagues made them mandatory. Pressure mounted on other leagues to do the same. Then came a twist few saw coming. Matt Petgrave was arrested on suspicion of manslaughter. Though many believed it was a freak accident, South Yorkshire police launched a full investigation. Petgrave expressed remorse, calling it a tragic accident, and a legal defense fund raised nearly £10,000, sparking debate. In the days after his death, fans gathered outside Nottingham Arena, leaving flowers, jerseys, and messages. His teammates wore black armbands. Arenas around the world held moments of silence. The hockey community united in grief and in reflection. Adam Johnson's death wasn't just a freak accident, it was a wake-up call. It reminded everyone of the risks athletes face every time they step on the ice. His legacy may ultimately be one of change, pushing a tough sport toward smarter, safer standards. He was a rising star, a devoted partner, and a man chasing his dream. And in honoring his life, the hockey world is learning how to protect the next generation who dared to do the same. It was January 18th, 1991, and the snowy peaks of Wengen, Switzerland were buzzing with anticipation. The Lauberhorn race, basically the Super Bowl of downhill skiing, was about to go down. This isn't your average snowy joyride either. It's one of the most dangerous ski races on the planet. A white-knuckle thrill ride where skiers fly down icy slopes at speeds faster than your parents on Black Friday. This year, to spice things up, and by spice, I mean terrify, race organizers rolled out a new qualification system. Only the top 30 skiers would get a shot at the main event. Translation: more pressure, more speed, and unfortunately, more risk. Enter 20-year-old Gernot Reinstadler, a rising star from Austria and one of the brightest young talents in the skiing world. Picture someone who had the speed of a rocket and the chill of a mountain breeze. His mom, Traudl, was a former racer herself, so skiing basically ran in his blood. The slopes were home, and that weekend Gernot was ready to earn his spot among the best. He was wearing bib number 44, not at the front, not at the back, just somewhere in the mix. But Gernot wasn't worried about numbers. He was all about the run. As he launched himself down the Lauberhorn course, everything looked perfect. He carved through the sharp turns with finesse, tackled the steep drops like a champ, and seemed to be locked in. But then came the final stretch, a notoriously nasty section of the course called the Finish S. Think of it like the boss level in a video game. Super fast, super tricky, and not forgiving. That's when things went horribly wrong. Gernot lost his balance, his weight shifted forward, and boom, he was airborne. He crashed into the safety netting with terrifying force. But instead of slowing him down, the netting tangled with one of his skis. The impact was brutal. He suffered massive internal injuries. Blood stained the snow. The crowd, race officials, everyone stood frozen as medics rushed in. He was given oxygen on the spot and airlifted to a hospital in Interlaken, where doctors performed emergency surgery that lasted 6 hours. They did everything they could, pumping in over 40 liters of blood. But by the early hours of January 19th, Gernot Reinstadler passed away. The skiing world was shattered. This wasn't just any athlete. Gernot had the kind of potential that made people believe. That weekend's World Cup events were immediately canceled in his honor. Tributes poured in. His close friend and roommate, Stefan Eberharder, was devastated. Just days later, Stefan won a world championship race and dedicated it to Gernot. A beautiful gesture, but it came with the heavy weight of grief. Gernot's death forced the ski world to take a hard look in the mirror. The Loberhorn course had always been dangerous, but now it was impossible to ignore. As a direct result of the accident, race officials made significant changes: stronger, better designed safety nets, and cut-resistant materials to prevent skis from getting trapped like Gernot's had. His mother later spoke out, describing the pain of losing her son as something that never truly goes away. It's the kind of heartbreak that echoes through time. A memorial plaque now sits at the Loberhorn finish line, a quiet tribute to a young man who left far too soon. Gernot's name became more than just a memory. It became a symbol, a reminder that even in a sport built on speed and daring, safety should never be an afterthought. Though Gernot's time was short, his legacy made the sport safer for countless athletes who followed, and that's something no finish line can measure. It was November 25, 2014, at the Sydney Cricket Ground. Phillip Hughes, a 25-year-old Australian cricketer, was playing for South Australia in a Sheffield Shield match. A talented, left-handed batsman, Hughes was known for his unorthodox style, fearless approach, and quiet determination. He had already played 26 Test matches for Australia and was fighting to earn his spot back on the national team. His love for the game made him a respected and admired figure in the cricketing world. That day, Hughes was batting confidently, having reached 63 runs. Then came a short-pitch delivery from fast bowler Sean Abbott. Hughes attempted a pull shot but misjudged the pace and angle. The ball struck him just below the back of his helmet, hitting the side of his neck. At first, it didn't appear serious. He stood for a moment, then suddenly collapsed face first on the pitch. Teammates and officials rushed to his side as medical personnel sprinted onto the field. He was unresponsive. The impact had caused a rare but catastrophic injury, damage to the vertebral artery, leading to bleeding in the brain. He was rushed to St. Vincent's Hospital in Sydney, where doctors performed emergency surgery and placed him in an induced coma. His mother and sister, watching from the stands, could only hope. Despite all efforts, Hughes never regained consciousness. On November 27th, just days before his 26th birthday, he was declared dead. The news stunned the cricketing world. It was almost impossible to comprehend such a tragic outcome from a routine play. Tributes poured in globally. Fans placed cricket bats outside their homes, part of the viral hashtag #PutOutYourBats movement. The gesture spread far beyond cricket. Actor Hugh Jackman displayed a bat on a Broadway stage, and Elton John dedicated a song to Hughes during a concert in Munich. Hughes' teammates were heartbroken. David Warner, who was on the field when it happened, was visibly shaken. Australian captain Michael Clarke, one of Hughes' closest friends, delivered an emotional eulogy at his funeral, calling him a brother. He later admitted that the loss had left him mentally broken. The first Test match between Australia and India, originally scheduled for December 4th, was postponed. When it finally took place in Adelaide, it became a tribute to Hughes. Players wore black armbands, and his Test cap number, 408, was painted on the field. Warner, Clarke, and Steve Smith each scored centuries in his honor. In a poignant moment, Warner kissed the pitch where Hughes had fallen. Fans and experts began to reflect on what Hughes might have achieved. He had already made headlines by scoring 2 centuries in a single Test early in his career, showing both flair and grit. Though he faced challenges, Especially against bouncers, he was constantly evolving. His sudden passing sparked new debates about player safety, specifically the use of neck guards. While experts concluded that a neck guard wouldn't have prevented his injury, the incident prompted a re-evaluation of cricket gear. It wasn't until 2019 that some top players, including Steve Smith, began wearing neck guards regularly. Ironically, Smith was later struck in nearly the same spot during an Ashes test, reigniting painful memories. The psychological toll on Sean Abbott was immense. The young bowler struggled deeply in the aftermath. During a 2016 inquiry, he spoke about the emotional burden he carried, a reminder that the tragedy affected everyone on and off the field. Cricket Australia declared Hughes would remain 63, not out forever. His family and friends have worked tirelessly to keep his memory alive. As the 10-year mark approaches, emotions resurface. What could he have achieved? What records might he have broken? Though he's gone, Hughes' spirit remains, etched into the game he loved, a symbol of both brilliance and fragility in sport. October 14, 2014 began like any other match day for 23-year-old Peter Biaksangzuala, a dedicated midfielder playing for Bethlehem Venklang FC. Known for his quiet discipline, relentless work ethic, and love for the game, Peter was a rising star in the Mizoram Premier League. He dreamed of one day representing India at the national level, but no one could have predicted how tragically that day's game would end. Bethlehem Venklang FC was facing Chanmari West FC in a crucial league match. The score was tied in the second half, tension running high. Then, in the 62nd minute, Peter made his move. Timing his run perfectly, he leapt and scored a beautiful equalizing header for his team. The stadium erupted. His teammates ran to him, celebrating a hard-fought goal. Overcome with emotion, Peter wanted to mark the moment in a special way. Inspired by his football idol Miroslav Klose, he attempted a celebratory somersault. He had done it before, but this time it went horribly wrong. As he flipped through the air, he lost control and landed awkwardly, head first. The joy in the stadium turned to immediate fear. Teammates who had just been cheering now rushed toward him in panic. Peter lay motionless on the ground. Medical staff were called in instantly. The game stopped, the atmosphere heavy with silence. Carefully, he was stretchered off and rushed to the ICU at Azal Civil Hospital. A CT scan revealed the worst. Peter had severely injured his spinal cord. Doctors worked around the clock to stabilize him. He was placed in intensive care while his family, teammates, and friends held on to hope. For 5 days, they waited and prayed. But despite the best efforts of the medical team, Peter passed away on October 19, 2014. His death sent shockwaves through Mizoram and the Indian football community. Bethlehem Venklang FC was devastated. As a tribute, they retired his jersey number, 21, ensuring no one else would wear it again. The Mizoram Premier League released a statement mourning his loss, calling it one of the darkest days in the region's football history. Peter was more than just a promising athlete. As a defensive midfielder, he had a reputation for breaking down attacks and supporting his team with consistency and heart. His coach, Danny Lau Limpuya, remembered him as humble, respectful, and deeply committed on and off the field. Tributes poured in. Fans, players, and officials expressed their sorrow, sharing memories of his talent and kind nature. His passing also triggered a difficult conversation about the risks tied to goal celebrations. Acrobatic flips are common in football, but few realized the danger they carry. Peter's accident became a painful reminder that even joy can carry risks. In his honor, the Mizoram Football Association and Bethlehem Venklang FC organized a charity match. It wasn't just a memorial, it was a celebration of his spirit. The football community came together in unity, remembering not only the tragedy, but the player and person Peter was. Off the field, his family and friends were left to cope with a sudden, unimaginable loss. Questions lingered. Could anything have been done differently? What if he had landed another way? There were no clear answers. Only the reality that even in moments of happiness, life can change in an instant. Peter had the heart of a dreamer and the discipline of a professional. His career was just beginning, but the impact he left was profound. In every match played in Mizoram, his memory echoes through the field. Bethlehem Vengthlang FC and all who watched him play will never forget the young man whose dreams were cut short, but whose legacy lives on.